Yeah, good show today. We've got we got a cool interview that we're going to wrap the show out with. We'll keep you all in the dark with respect to that for a little bit. And then got giveaways, a whole bunch of giveaways, courtesy of Paramount, who's always being really, really good to us.
Good people at Paramount.
Nobody else died this last week.
Oh, yeah. I guess we got to start counting again. Got to start at the top, take it back to the top.
Yeah, gosh. On the last, when we were talking about everybody who had died in the last time, we neglected to mention the passing of Machiko Kiyo, the great Japanese actress from Rashomon and countless other great films. She was, in the 50s and into the 60s, she was a legend, and she passed away as well at age 95 on May 12th. And what a great, I mean, she was in Ugetsu, and she was in Floating Weeds, 1959.
Good long run. Yeah.
Long career. And acted all the way into the 70s, ultimately. A couple of movies in the 70s, but did Black Lizard in 1962, kind of a legendary Japanese exploitation title. The Loyal 47 Ronin. And she did some other movies like The Princess Sen that have never been out here. And I saw that years ago at a festival, and it's kind of a lost film in many respects, but I hope some of that stuff gets rediscovered with her passing. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so good bunch of stuff today. It's going to be an interesting week. So we had our production adventure last year when you shot your film.
Yes.
So now I've got one this next week.
You're in the thick of it.
Well, it's not my film, but a good friend of mine's making a big short next week, which I'm not at liberty to say much about. But it's a big short. Like, it's a really big short. It's like if you were shooting a feature, but you only shot for 5 days.
Yeah.
And my wife is producing it, and it's consumed our lives significantly for the last couple of weeks, and we're finally going to get the cameras rolling on Monday. So.
Because making a movie is making a movie, no matter what the scale. Yeah, the elements all stay the same.
And this thing is. It's a big deal. I mean, it's everybody's getting paid. In other words,
yeah,
that's the deal. So it's going to be exciting. I'm doing a company move every day, so we'll be in the thick of it. So let's get right to it, because we do have that interview to cut into the show later on. Starting off, we got a Blu-ray here from Eagle Vision, Eagle Rock, the music people. Which is really, really interesting. Like, I don't want to call it a documentary, but it's a personal essay about the story of the Police, the band, from the point of view of Stuart Copeland. Stuart Copeland made this himself, and he produced it, and he wrote it, and he directed it. And he, of course, has been primarily a film composer for many, many years, all the way back into the 80s, right about the time that the Police kind of called it quits. Copeland he started scoring movies, everything, sort of beginning with Francis Coppola's, why am I drawing a blank? Rumblefish.
Oh, Rumblefish, yes.
Rumblefish.
The magical realism, yeah.
That great score. So this is basically the story of the Police from his point of view of having been right in the middle of it, and it is called The Police Everyone Stares: The Police Inside Out. And it's terrific. It's really, really good. You hear music, you hear versions of some of their stuff, and you hear tracks and recordings and live stuff that's never ever been heard before. It's really, really interesting. Some of them are these unreleased derangements that were created specifically for the film too. So it's really, really interesting. There's a commentary on here with Summers and Copeland. They couldn't get Sting to sit for freaking commentary because he's doing, I don't know, Downward Dog or something. But anyway, it's terrific. It really is terrific. If you lived through this era, the Police were a seminal band.
No, Sting would say, "I'm living in the present."
Exactly. That's what I'm sure. Yeah,
that's exactly what he would say.
But it's terrific.
But yeah, of course, the Police. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, they changed everything. They put a little ska in it, and there was a little reggae kind of under a lot of that stuff too, and they pop. It was amazing.
My dad took me to New York in 1977, 78, 79, whatever it was. CBGB's. Went to CBGB's.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the Police play there, but everybody told me about.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and another stack of anime. The anime has been fast and furious lately. A bunch of these things have come out. Some of this is worth mentioning. Please, Twins. It's part of the whole, twins thing. The twins are an anime phenomenon unto themselves that I am not fully aware of, but I've had some 12 and 13-year-olds tell me, like, oh, yeah, totally.
Uh-huh.
So, anyway, this is... this is it's a boy and a girl, and they have, gosh, where's the it's sort of like a long lost, separated at birth thing, and how do you even describe this phenomenon? It's you got to see it. There's no other way to describe this. So check out Please Twins. I think we may have covered one of these twins things previously, but it's schoolyard stuff, right? It's still in that school syndrome. These unusual sisters, and then these twins, this brother and sister separated at birth. These unusual twins. There's a lot of weird psychological school stuff that goes on, and it kind of turns into a romance at a certain point too. It's very, very unusual. The complete collection of Sagrada Reset from Sente. More school stuff. It's unbelievable how I wonder how many artists in Japan in the anime industry actually spend most of their time drawing kids in school uniforms, because we cover a lot of it on this show, like hundreds. I mean, how often do you have to draw these kids in uniforms? I don't get it. Anyway, but it's a popular thing. Kids in school in uniforms, superpowers, fighting aliens, fighting monsters, falling in love and exercising their powers, whatever you want. It's all kind of an X-Men thing, I guess. So anyway, Sagrada Reset is part of that, and it's wish fulfillment. It's wish fulfillment of kids that have superpowers and looking to figure out what to do with them. We also have season 2 of Freezing Vibration, which is very, very cool. A little bit on the somewhat risque side. I wouldn't recommend this necessarily for teenagers, but it's cool. It's female superheroes kind of, and this takes place. This all sort of emerges from Alaska. The main kind of superhero base that they operate out of is in Alaska, which is kind of weird, but that's okay. Like, who would go to Alaska? I don't know. But anyway, so that's secret agent superheroes kind of a thing. Let's see what else we got. Ideon, the complete series plus the movies. Space Runaway. This is a relatively old mecha series, and kind of goes back into the era of Transformers and all that from the early '80s. It definitely looks very early '80s. It all kind of takes place on a distant planet where the Earth has now migrated, and they're doing archaeology on this distant planet. And what they unearth is a technology, a civilization that kind of blows up in their faces. And there it is. It's the Ide. So this is Ideon, Space Runaway, the complete series plus movies that they did. It's actually kind of cool. I don't know that it's as cool as something like Getarobo, which is, I guess, from the 70s, or even Space Cruiser Yamato and Star Blazers, but I still enjoy it. Let's see. Then we've also got Godannar, I guess is how you pronounce it. 26 episodes, the complete collection, also from Sente. This is another mecha series, mecha suits and giant robots and the usual thing. It's just a slightly different universe. The coolest stuff on here is the mechanical profiles and all the Japanese commercials that they originally aired for this thing, which are hysterical. I don't know why Japanese commercials make me laugh so much, but they're really, really funny. They are. It's like Pacific Rim in many respects, except with aliens instead of monsters. But it's pretty cool. A little bit of I guess a little bit of Starship Troopers would be in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Land of the Lustrous. has a real following. I was looking forward to this. This is from a couple of years ago. I thought that I would really vibe to this just from what I'd seen of the animation previously. I'm not quite sure. I really understand it. It's the idea here is that you have beings whose bodies are made out of crystals, and that means that there are people who hunt them for the crystal of which their bodies are made. And the crystals have a certain characteristics, shall we say, and it all gets, that's as much as it really makes sense. And then it starts to get into this very, very convoluted mythology that lost me at a certain point. But animation's great. Animation's really, really first rate. Let's see. Kampfer. More girls in uniforms. It's unbelievable how this. Seriously, it's unbelievable what a common theme this is. So a Kampfer is a female warrior of sorts, and and naturally female warriors all wear these schoolgirl uniforms. It just it doesn't really make sense to me. But this is essentially about a schoolgirl who is kind of drawn into a Kampfer clique, and how they defend each other, and what their mission going forward winds up being. So this is the complete collection. It also has an English dub on it, which I wouldn't recommend. The voices are kind of annoying. And Kokkoku, Moment by Moment, Kokkoku, Moment by Moment, complete collection, also from Sentai. Really, really interesting animation. Very, very textured, dark lines, lots of shadows. Very, very cyberpunk in a way that I haven't seen since the 80s, frankly. Really, really very, very interesting concept. It's about this family that has the power to stop time. And whenever they do that, they enter this alternate dimension where time doesn't exist. It's really kind of a fascinating concept. And there's a particular incident that happens to this family so that they're forced to use this power. And this is all about solving that crime, and how you have actually a race against time when there is no time, which is an interesting concept. I think it's just really, really cool.
Wow.
So this is the complete collection of Kokkoku, Kokkoku. Really one of the more interesting anime concepts I've seen in a very, very long time. And then lastly, from Funimation, we have Hakata Tonkotsu Ramens. That's right. The only word that I understand there is ramens. This takes place in the city of Fukuoka, which is this really, it's almost like a Japanese anime version of Sin City or something. I would analogize this to Wicked City, which is of course an anime legend, but it feels at times more like Sin City, like a colorful Sin City. It's a really, really, I don't know why anybody would want to go to Fukuoka the way that it's depicted here. It's just lots of just scumballs and killers and horrible, horrible people. And there's even a transvestite assassin here, which is kind of a weird thing in a lot of Japanese live action and anime films. I'm not quite sure why that is a recurring theme, but it is. And that's what this is all about. It's about a bunch of people just with ulterior motives navigating the seedy underbelly of Fukuoka. And I don't know that it's highly recommended, but it certainly has its moments. And if you like Sin City, you will probably respond to it.
Cool.
That's it for our anime this week. Let's move to some new movies.
A few new movies I think we have over here. I will start out with a Blu-ray. The J.T. Leroy story, Kirsten Stewart and Laura Dern. This was an interesting sort of situation. So this was based on one of those.
I remember this whole thing when it transpired.
One of those crazy literary hoaxes.
Yeah,
it
was amazing.
But
it was like a double hoax.
Yeah,
it's a double layered hoax.
And what struck me as most interesting about it. So you have this person, this young writer who called J.T. Leroy, puts out this book becomes a bestseller.
Yeah.
Except that
which is like an autobiographical thing about your tough upbringing
life
and
life and drugs and all this kind of stuff like that. And apparently J.T. Leroy, but people, who's J.T. We want to meet just J.T. Leroy. All right.
Yeah.
There is no JT Leroy.
No.
I'm not giving anything away here. There is no JT Leroy.
Yeah.
So
people thought it was a male first.
Thought
too.
it was
They
a male
dude.
first. So a woman named Savannah Coop, who is the person who wrote the memoir in the first place.
Yeah.
Has a brother who has a sister-in-law. Has
a sister.
A sister, and she gets the sister to take on the persona of this person, JT Leroy, who doesn't exist, and to be the human being sort of in the world.
Crazy.
And because it's a sister, not a dude. She's very effeminate.
Yeah.
But everyone just assumed it was sort of an effeminate gay boy.
Yeah.
And this whole wild thing. Now, what happens is the writer Savannah starts to get jealous.
Yeah.
And so, because now she's getting all the kudos for the stuff that I write. What gets lost in this wacky story sometimes is that the non-existent JT Leroy's writing was actually quite good.
Yeah.
The novel was compelling. It was actually completely and totally whole cloth and fiction, but it was nevertheless compelling. And I think that gets lost a little bit sometimes in the story. Nevertheless, this made for a neat movie on Blu-ray. It doesn't come with much by way of additional materials, but I don't know if you're into sort of unraveling those sort of hoaxes. This one can be a lot of fun.
Now there's an interesting. I'm going to throw a quick little anecdote on that. So the JT Leroy, and I actually didn't mind that film. I thought it had its moments. It could have gone further. It could have done more, but I thought it did a relatively decent job. It had some good performances. But what's interesting in there is the Diane Kruger, the German actress, plays a character who is basically Asia Argento. Because they don't say that because there's a lot of controversy there. Because did the Kristen Stewart character who's pretending to be JT Leroy, did she have an affair with Asia Argento? Apparently they did while they were making The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things, which was adapted from one of those books. My wife actually worked on that. And so I remember that was being shot and everybody was like, oh, JT Leroy. And everybody kind of was that's when the hoax was in full bloom, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember when the whole thing just unraveled and we were laughing about it. We were just like, that is so bizarre. That poor misbegotten film. Yeah. Now we understand why everything behind the scenes in the film was completely haywire.
Yeah.
Now we suddenly understood.
These people were involved in some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting stuff. Sebastian Lelio in 2013 made a film called Gloria. And he more or less last year remade that exact same film, called it Gloria Bell.
Why? Why do they do these?
Look, other than the fact that the other film was in a foreign language, but other than that, it's the same film, the same story, more or less. This one simply happens to star Julianne Moore and John Turturro and Sean Astin and a few other people. But the movie is essentially the same. It's about a woman, a sort of free-spirited woman by night,
middle-aged woman,
and it's about both of them are about a woman of a certain age. So she meets this man of a certain age, and they start this affair. And the question of both films is whether or not he will be able to let go of the baggage of his life and join her in living out the rest of their lives together, free and happy, the way young people do.
Yeah,
we're supposed to anyway. I don't really think that's true. But more or less, it's the same film made the same, and I suppose it's funny and sweet and all that kind of stuff. But the movie was just fine the first time around when it was in Spanish with subtitles. Nevertheless, this one you won't have to read. Special features include An Extraordinary Woman, The Making of Gloria Bell, and an audio commentary with director Sebastian Lelio, in which he does, in fact, speak to the question of, Sebastian, why'd you do this movie 2 times? And he answers the questions very lucidly.
It's not unusual that directors remake their own movies. It has happened since the silent era. Cecil B. DeMille made The Ten Commandments in the silent, and then he remade it again in 1956, obviously the more legendary version of it. Hitchcock remade The Man Who Knew Too Much, and in cases like that, I get it because you feel like you can really improve on the previous version. But in cases like this, where they're only separated by a couple of years, and it's usually a foreign director remaking his original film in English, clearly with a bigger payday.
Yeah,
but I would be bored. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd be bored just walking out there with a whole different cast and a whole different crew and shooting exactly the same scene that I just did about 24 months earlier, I'd just be so bored.
Just in English is all it really is.
But if they're throwing cash at you, I guess why not?
And then there is that A Point of No Return. That was remade from the French film
La Femme Nikita.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it wasn't Besson making it. It was Joel Schumacher.
Different but just a remake. Yeah, a Vigilante, Olivia Wilde film. So this harkens back to the old sort of films back in the day. Sleeping with the Enemy.
Yeah.
In a few of those, young woman, abusive.
You remember I covered this on Film Week, and I recommended it to you. You got to see this.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Abusive husband goes off, trains herself up, gets her skills down, Pat, and basically comes back and becomes the equalizer.
Yeah,
you got a problem.
She's teaching. She's intervening where she's out there, right? She's mysterious, and if there's a woman or anybody, frankly, but generally
women
in particular who need somebody to kind of like make an abusive somebody go away. She shows up, word goes out through the grapevine, very secretive way that you can recruit her, and she is lethal.
Yeah.
I love the first half of this movie. The second half gets a little conventional, but I think for her, Olivia, she has never been better.
Yeah, it's as good as any of those boy vigilante films of the last 45 years, really.
Terrific.
I like it better because it's a woman in the lead.
Agree.
In the boy vigilante films, very often they spend a lot of time beating up a woman, right? Or something like that, so that the man can come in and avenge that woman. But we spend a lot of time when a woman getting beat up or locked in a cage, whatever it is, and then the man. That doesn't happen in this movie. We understand, what's going on. When she gets there, she's taking care of the problem.
That's it.
You got to love it. And plus, I love this clean, simple cover.
Right.
It's her face, her hands, her two weapons. And a vigilante.
That's it.
That's a cool thing. Isn't it romantic? Rebel Wilson, Liam Hemsworth film with Adam Devine. Isn't it romantic? No, it's not. It's not romantic at all. It's not. It's a terrible movie. I'm sorry. I'm losing it with Rebel Wilson.
Yeah.
A couple of good turns and those Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
Films, but she's working that same joke. I'm a sassy, overweight
Aussie.
Okay, that was true 6 movies ago.
I know. She's, I kind of feel like she should have had a sitcom.
That's where this is a TV personality.
It's why look, let's be honest. Tim Allen, notwithstanding the Toy Story movies, Tim Allen is a TV sitcom guy because he joke, joke. That's Home Improvement. That's everything he's ever done. Same with George Lopez. Same with Jerry Seinfeld. God love him. He's one of the wealthiest human beings on the planet. But could Jerry Seinfeld have carried a movie?
Nope.
No, because he's like joke.
Yeah.
Joke. And that's a TV rhythm. That's a sitcom rhythm. You can deal with that for 30 minutes and then let it dissipate for a week, come back, and there it goes again. And that's where Rebel Wilson belongs. She belongs on a sitcom.
It's one notch above talk show host.
Yeah,
Roseanne. Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes they don't even work in the other direction. The sitcom guy can't really host a talk show.
True.
But neither one of them are real. Jay Leno made a movie with Pat Morita.
I remember that. Oh my word!
And tapped out forever.
Yeah,
true.
And he's the first person to tell you that.
Yeah, tapped out. He's like, no, I'm not. Plainly, I'm not. Plainly, I'm not.
Yeah.
So, isn't it romantic? It is not. Special features, deleted scenes. Ruben Brandt collector. What did you think? This was an animation.
I hated this.
It was very bizarre. The animation. The animation is an interesting thing. It's sort of almost a sort of triplets of Belleville sort of physical thing going on. The narrative, though, I just didn't quite get my mind around it.
It's very aggressively animated. It tries to have this kind of German expressionist, very angular, noirish thing going on. It tries to be very meta with respect to artworks and famous artists and
psychoanalysis, motivating sort of.
I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I just sat there and I got a headache after about 15 minutes.
It's funny. The guy Ruben, he's having these horrible nightmares.
Yeah.
They drive him to go out and steal these paintings. He steals 13. He takes his patients with him. Some of his patients have these particular and they steal these paintings, and he becomes the most wanted art thief in the world.
Yeah.
And now everybody starts coming after him. Gangsters are coming after him. The police are coming after him. And it all has to do with these nightmares that he's having and what these nightmares are all about.
I understand more about the movie from what you just said than from having watched it. Seriously,
what is interesting in the movie are the representations of the art that he's stealing.
Yeah.
That's sort of interesting because nothing looks like what it actually looks like. The art is also represented in this particular sort of animated form.
Crazy.
I wish that they would have put something on this. The correct thing to put on this as a special feature is the commentary of both a psychoanalyst and an art historian.
Yeah.
If you can find one or two and have both, that's what you want as a special feature on this. Not so much a film critic as people to give commentary on the subject of the movie. But what are you going to do? Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie.
Yay.
I go back with the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers all the way back to about 1991-92 when they first came out. Saban.
Yeah.
I knew the Pink Ranger fairly well. She was cool. Bridget was my wife was in an acting class with her.
Yep.
Somehow they keep managing to just sort of recreate themselves. They're like this weird little franchise on the fringe of all the franchises. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. They keep coming back. And here they are again. Doing what they usually do. What's fun about this are the special features. They look back at the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, including interviews with all the old school guys, including the director of this film, Brian Spitzer, and all the young stars. An original featurette and a trailer. But that look back stuff where they go through and you get to see footage of all your old favorite Power Rangers. The White Ranger. I was kind of into that guy myself. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on Blu-ray. The Haunting of Sharon Tate, a Hilary Duff movie. Oh man,
they just kind of blew up at Tarantino a little bit, and he snapped back at the Cannes Film Festival when they complained that Margot Robbie didn't have enough screen time as Sharon Tate in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And he snapped back at him. I think they need to take a look at this just to appreciate how badly someone can play Sharon Tate.
Yeah, look, I don't even know what this means exactly. Based on Sharon Tate's dreams, how they know what she dreamed about, I don't know. And the Mansion Family Nightmare. What the hell are you talking about here, people?
Yeah.
But the sort of background of the whole sort of
it
plays out.
It's not good.
There is an audio commentary with the director. Maybe he'll explain to you premonitions of death or something. So silly crap. Greta, Isabelle Huppert, and Chloe Grace Moretz in this fairly Midland thriller. Young woman finds a purse, returns it to the rightful owner. This woman, Isabelle Huppert. She's a piano teacher. They start a relationship. The young woman's mother had recently died, so she has a reason to sort of get in there. And man, oh man,
Isabelle Huppert is crazy.
It just goes totally bad crap crazy. And these are apparently a thing. There's a new one came out a couple of weeks ago called Ma.
Yeah.
In theaters. Octavia Spencer.
Yeah.
Older woman.
Yeah.
Hangs out with these kids. And goes crazy. So is this like a new subgenre of crazy old lady movies?
I think it. See, here's the thing. I actually enjoyed a lot of this because it's a Neil Jordan film.
Yeah,
I like Neil Jordan. Neil Jordan's been kind of hit and miss since Crying Game and Interview with the Vampire, and then he went off the rails for a long time and didn't do. I mean, The Butcher Boy is another one that I'm fond of that has yet to be on Blu-ray.
I haven't thought about that in years.
Right, and so I felt like Neil Jordan was a little bit back. But also he's winking at us. He knows that this is a little bit of De Palma. This is a little bit of Hitchcock. He knows that this is basically Norman Bates as a French actress. And Isabelle Huppert, frankly, it's a lot of Chabrol because she played that crazy broad in half a dozen Chabrol movies. And Neil Jordan knows that. So that's why he cast her. He says to her in his Irish way, I'm sure he said, Isabelle, all that stuff you did for Chabrol.
Yeah.
Turn it up to 11. Let's just take it right. In fact, go for 15. Take it as far as you want. Go as crazy as you want. Go as far as Chabrol would not let you go. I want it all.
You cannot be too
all right. So we got a bunch of great giveaways here. Here they go. You ready for this? This is courtesy of Paramount for Father's Day. And we need to get everything in by the 9th. If you can get us your emails by the 9th. We will, on the morning of the 10th, we will select the winners, and we will let Paramount know. You can apply for all of these. You can send us an email for all of these. You can enter them all. Just know that that you can't win multiple ones. So if you want to kind of improve your odds of not getting something that you don't want and getting something you do want, don't enter for something that you're not really passionate about. So we are going to give away a Blu-ray of the complete 22nd season of South Park. We're going to give away one. Now remember, all of these, I'm going to say this once, email to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com. Put your name and address in the body of the email, and I'm going to give you the code word that you put into the subject line. These are the words put in the subject line to enter. For the complete 22nd season on Blu-ray of South Park, write Cartman, Cartman. We are also going to give away, there's only giving away one of those. We're giving away one Blu-ray of the Godfather trilogy, The Corleone Legacy. One of those. The word is Brando, Brando. We're going to give away one Blu-ray, 25th anniversary of Forrest Gump. You're going to put Bubba in the subject line.
Bubba Gump.
We're going to give away one Blu-ray of Jack Ryan Season 1, which we're also going to talk about momentarily. Jack Ryan Season 1, one Blu-ray. Put Jack in the line, in the subject line. We're going to give away one Blu-ray Mission Impossible 6 movie collection. A 6-movie Mission Impossible collection on Blu-ray. Put Cruise in the subject line. We're going to give away a Bumblebee on the Transformers Bumblebee collection on Blu-ray. Just put B in the subject line, BEE. We're going to give away Saving Private Ryan on 4K. Put Private in the subject line. We're also going to give away the 4K of 13 Hours, Michael Bay's 13 Hours, the Benghazi movie. We're giving away 2 copies of that. So put Hours, 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 Hours in the subject line. Again, to gods@digigods.com or gods@cinegods.com. And we are singing Paramount's praises right now. They have done us right. And that brings us to the 4K of 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi, which, oddly enough, stars the man who stars in Jack Ryan, who, I would have thought that...
Krasinski?
Yeah, John Krasinski. I would have thought that he'd be a comedy guy after The Office, and he's become
he went all hardcore.
Went all hard action. Yeah, he's the guy now. But excuse me. But yeah, you know what? Regardless, irrespective of all of the political stuff, and I think this film was sabotaged a little bit because a lot of people thought that this was timed to hurt Hillary Clinton during the election and whatnot. And I think it faded a little bit because of that. Truth is, this is not a political film. Doesn't make a statement. Doesn't hurt anybody. Doesn't help anybody. It's the most serious film that Michael Bay has attempted to make, frankly, since what was the first thing?
Pearl Harbor?
No, even before Pearl Harbor, since the Rock.
Oh, The Rock, yeah, which was not terribly serious, but nevertheless,
it's as serious as he gets.
Yeah.
So, I actually find this to be a very, very skillfully made film.
Well, it does intend to track the events in a fairly methodical,
linear
way. To the extent that we know something happened when. That's the way he tries to lay out that movie. What's funny is the movie is not terribly jingoistic either.
No.
That DVD cover is.
Yeah, that's right. The DVD cover is for sure.
But the movie's not, so I don't know. That's an interesting thing.
It looks great on 4K. It really does. The HDR is just superlative. Especially when you get into the night stuff, the blacks and the motion inside the blacks, the artifacting that even you get in the Blu-ray is gone. It's pristine. It's beautiful. It's fantastic. It's really, really well done. You get an hour of behind-the-scenes stuff from EPK and whatnot. It's pretty great. And then the other 4K stuff this week is all Batman related. The first one, I'm going to get this right out of the way. It's a DC animated movie on 4K Ultra HD with a Blu-ray and a Movies Anywhere digital locker access. This is a movie that is as weird as anything I have ever seen in my life. Now, let me just say, I remember when the second incarnation of Scooby-Doo back in the 70s decided to go all celebrity on us. This is before their current association with the WWE. I remember when it was, every week a new bunch of celebrities are paired with Scooby-Doo on their mystery. And it was the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges? Like, really? Are you kidding me? And then Batman and Robin.
That was so crazy.
Batman and Robin with Casey Kasem voicing Robin on Scooby-Doo. How do you do that? Because he's already voicing Shaggy. How do you... I don't understand. Like, I was even sophisticated enough at that time to figure out that there's something weird going on here. Okay, but that doesn't hold a candle to the 4K, the inexplicable 4K Ultra HD release of Batman versus the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'd like to know how on earth does this? The Mutant Ninja Turtles aren't even a DC thing. I don't understand this. It's just weird. But Warner has gone and done it. They went and did it. And does it work? I don't know. I don't know. I
just know if I'm Batman, I'm not fighting with those turtles.
You're
Batman, damn it.
It's numbing. It's weird. It's just surreal. I don't understand the point. And I'm not even, the plot kind of matters, I guess, but you find that, honestly, most of the time you're not really concerned about solving the crime. You're just sitting there looking at the TV going, why is Batman on my TV with the turtles? I don't understand. This is totally wrong.
Yeah.
And then we also have the 4 original Batman movies on 4K Ultra HD with relatively terrible artwork on the cover, I will add. Batman, the original Batman, the Tim Burton Batman. Batman Returns, which my mother-in-law is an extra in, and it's thoroughly hilarious to pick her out of the crowd. And then, of course, we have the 2 Joel Schumacher films when Joel Schumacher took over for Tim Burton. Now, that includes Batman Forever with Val Kilmer playing Batman and Tommy Lee Jones and Jim Carrey playing the baddies. And Jim Carrey was a really good Riddler. And then, of course, the much maligned one that sort of killed the franchise until they went to Christopher Nolan to resurrect it, Batman and Robin with George Clooney playing Batman and Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Mr. Freeze and Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl and Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy and Chris O'Donnell, of course, as Robin, reprising Robin. So here's the thing. You may not remember this, but I remember this very well. I remember Batman and Robin. We saw this, all 4 of us, you, Bridget, me, my wife, and we saw it at the Village Theater in Westwood.
Oh, yeah. All gone. And still there.
Still there.
Yeah.
And we sat on the front row of the balcony.
Yeah.
I remember this as like yesterday. I remember this so well. And that scene at the end where Robin is like surfing down to earth. I don't even remember what the context was, but somehow, for some reason, he's surfing in midair. And I remember you laughing. You were almost inconsolable. You were laughing so hard. And we walked out, and no one said anything. And of course, all the press people are circulating there in the courtyard of the Village Theater. And we stood right on the corner, right in front of the newspaper boxes.
Yeah.
And none of us wanted to say anything. And you broke the silence. And these are the words that you said. You said these words. Well, I will say this. That was filmmaking with reckless abandon.
I remember that.
And that is one of my treasured moments. And I just thought, that's Tim just nailing it perfectly.
Oh, my God. That was so funny. Hey, no, he just pulled the ripcord on that movie.
Yeah, he
did.
did.
Like, you know what the hell, guys? Let's the nipples on that other one. Shall we do a
so
bit of
anyway.
business over here?
Anyway, look, all of these movies look terrific. I'm gonna say what nobody wants to say. The Schumacher films look better. They look better.
Well, they're more colorful.
They're more colorful, and he shot them in 3-strip Technicolor, or in a format that emulates 3-strip Technicolor. So he intended it for it to be very saturated in the way that 50s and 60s musicals were, the way that The Wizard of Oz was, in that very rich, thick color way that's almost super realistic.
Yeah.
So, or super unrealistic, super, just a very, very... just saturated.
And if you remember that movie is full of primary colors.
And
just jump off the screen.
And they don't bleed. That's the thing. Even in Blu-ray, that stuff bleeds a little bit. The 4K is really spectacular, especially on those 2 Schumacher films. So, well worth it. And of course, all the extras that you're entitled to. It's a decent set.
Batman.
Yeah.
Where
Anyway.
are we going with that? What are we going to do with Batman next?
Well, Matt, he just cast
Well, yeah,
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
I mean, but we've already done Dark Batman. You cast Robert Pattinson, you got to do Dark Batman. So we've had, Christian Bale was Dark Batman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, dude, I just say it. My favorite Batman, Michael Keaton.
It's very funny when Matt was announced as directing, when that was made official that he was directing Batman. I sent a text. I sent him a text that was not returned, and my text was, if you don't give Adam West a cameo, so help me, I'm never going to forgive you.
He
never returned that. He never returned that.
Adam's gone now. It's not. See, he blew it.
I know.
He had an opportunity.
Yeah,
he blew it.
But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I trust Matt's judgment. I'm assuming that that's not a Warner Brothers thing. So let's see how Pattinson does.
To me, that's like that brief moment that Nick Cage was going to play Superman. I think it was a Kevin Smith.
It was a Kevin Smith
script,
thing. Yeah, he was. That's right.
And while that seems interesting, like in your head, no way that was going to make any sense.
No.
Particularly back then when Nick Cage was doing all that brooding sociopath stuff that he was doing.
Right. TV,
a little bit of TV. Yeah. So the Jack Ryan season 1, of course, which is one of our giveaways, the Blu-ray, if I'm not mistaken. We just announced that season 1 of Jack Ryan. So the adaptations of Tom Clancy novels has gone from things like Sean Connery and Hunt for Red October. And worked through 2 or 3 people playing this character in cinema. I think Alec Baldwin had a shot at him once. I think Ben Affleck had a shot at him once.
Yep.
And now here this character is. I almost said devolved to television. That's not fair.
No.
But it is clear that this run of Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan character novels will not be seen on the big screen anymore. And it's just interesting to me in the course of about 30 years, because if I'm not mistaken, Hunt for Red October was about 90. And here we are, 2019, almost 30 years. And Jack Ryan is no longer a movie star. Jack Ryan. It's funny. Jack Ryan is a television guy. He's more or less Magnum PI. John Krasinski.
He kind of is.
He really is. John Krasinski just does not work for me as this guy. But it's only because he does not work for me as
better than Ben Affleck.
Better than Ben Affleck. Well,
yeah.
But to me, Harrison Ford, yes. I like that Alec Baldwin portrayal of this character first.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just like that portrayal. But
I do too. Alec Baldwin was the one that I always thought was the best.
Yeah. So anyway, it works the way it works. This is season 1. Special features include a few deleted scenes. What I would have loved for them to put on this, they should when they get ready to put these things out, they should check with me and say, Tim, what do you want on these things? I want a commentary track here explaining the history and evolution of all of these things, from Tom's books right through those movies that we just talked about, to how it all becomes conceived as a television series, most of which has nothing to do whatsoever with any one of those Tom Clancy books. These are all whole cloth episodes here, and how you maintain the character. I would love to hear the filmmakers talk about that, and how you maintain a sort of cohesiveness of character. But they didn't do it, so next time check with me. The Venture Bros. The 2003 is when this animated series popped on, and I always thought of it as something sort of like sort of Bizarro World, Johnny Quest.
Yeah.
You got this guy Rusty Venture. He was a child prodigy. He's this sort of washed up hack doctor. He has these 2 moronic sons. Not exactly Haji and Johnny. They have a bodyguard who's competent and extremely capable, and they roam around the world doing all the crap that they do. That's Johnny Quest. Except that Johnny Quest was serious.
Yeah.
And so a little bit more I Spy, I suppose, or something like that than this. This is wacky and goofy, but nevertheless a lot of fun. I used to watch it back in the day. So this is the Venture Bros. Exclusive extras include some sort of season. Oh, this is season 7, by the way. This was Adult Swim stuff, so it's sort of like rated. They don't rate things R, but PG-13 or something like that. Venture Bros.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool.
Ooh.
The Brady Test, Brady Bunch TV and movie collection. All 5 Brady movies.
Yeah.
Plus 4 different Brady series. People think there was only the one.
No.
The Bradys grew up, and the people, and 2 2 new to DVD. So this is like a 31 disc collection of everything that you wanted to get involved with that was Brady.
You have to be such a Brady head to want all of this. I can't. I know people who love the original show. I know people who love, the newer movies that kind of spoof the show. I don't know anybody that says
there was a play that went out there on the road. I think it was a musical.
I don't know anybody that would want all of this, but God love you if you do. They went and they created what must be some kind of a narcotic for a certain segment of the population. I don't get it, but whatever. It's a custom box.
It's a lovely box. The little boxes, and they have the animated Brady's in there. And,
yeah.
It's
crazy.
And every Greg and every Peter and every
I forgot
Bobby.
There was an animated show.
Yeah, there was an animated Brady's.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. The 5 Brady movies, by the way, just in case you're wondering, man, I wonder what the name of those 5 Brady movies were. The Brady Bunch movie, a Very Brady sequel, a Very Brady Christmas, Grown Up Brady, the Brady Bunch, and the White House.
Oh dear,
Frank, I didn't see that.
I didn't even know it existed.
I don't remember that one at all.
Oh man,
I wonder who was president back then.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love this 1968 adaptation of Tennessee Williams' Boom. With Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor.
Yep.
I think they had already been divorced and remarried once by then, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
This is a big, sexy streetcar named Desire scale, the dramatic Tennessee Williams film. It comes with an audio commentary by filmmaker John Waters, which is just a fantastic thing.
Yep.
Tennessee Williams said specifically that it was his favorite adaptations of any of his work. So that's nuts. That's crazy. I don't know why you would say that, because it's not. But he liked it the best, so go with it. Boom.
And a little bit in that vein, we're going to talk about Sex Madness Revealed with Patton Oswalt and Rob Zabretsky. So this is in the Mystery Science Theater vein, and Patton Oswalt obviously has some connection to that world as well. And this takes a movie that was known in 1938 as Sex Madness, also known under the title Human Wreckage, and it uses that as its Mystery Science Theater fodder. And you get the wisecrack track with Patton Oswalt and Rob Zabretsky. And I really don't particularly like the Mystery Science Theater thing, but for some reason I think it really, really works here. I think, and partly because I just adore Patton Oswalt, and it is quite. This is very, very entertainingly done. It's really, really fun. There's an audio commentary on here as well with director Tim Kirk and Patrick Cooper, who helped put this together. It's a lot of fun. It's on Blu-ray, and that's from Kino Classics. It is Sex Madness Revealed. If you like the wisecrack track concept, I highly recommend it. Also from Kino, a couple of RKO classics. Did you know that RKO is tied with Columbia Pictures for the most ever Best Picture winners?
I did not know that.
And most of that obviously early on, but RKO by the 1950s is basically done. They won 12.
I did not know that.
Crazy.
I did not know that. In what incarnation, under what auspices does RKO still exist? Does anybody own and put out movies?
It's a library.
It's just a library now?
It's just a library now, and these are basically put out through a collaboration between Lobster Films, Kino Lorber, and the Library of Congress. So somewhere in there, the RKO library, or at least parts of it, still exists for exploitation. These are 2 collections. One is RKO Classic Adventures. The other is RKO Classic Romances. And the Classic Adventures includes at least one really, really good film, The Painted Desert. It also includes The Payoff and The Silver Horde. These are all early 30s. Early talkies, pre-code films, pre-code adventure films. The Painted Desert as a pre-code Western is really, really interesting and really significant. And these have all been restored somewhere between the Library of Congress and Lobster, and they really look very, very good. The only thing that is particularly interesting about The Payoff is that it's got some kind of interesting character actors in it. The Silver Horde has Joel McRae kind of doing his thing, but The Painted Desert is great and features Clark Gable in the first ever talkie that he ever made. The RKO Classic Romances has more interesting stuff on it. It's Millie, Kept Husbands, The Lady Refuses, The Woman Between, and Sin Takes a Holiday. And these are also all pre-code and much more interesting because they're very clearly pre-code. Sin Takes a Holiday, especially, and the woman between, very risque. Lots of stuff that would never have made it onto the screen in just a couple of years later. So even though this is called RKO Classic Romances, what they mean is RKO Classic pre-code risque romances is what it ought to be. And some very, very good stuff in here. Some really interesting performances. Actresses that would not go on to do anything. Joel McCrea also shows up here in Kept Husbands. So he's kind of a constant in this particular period, but a lot of great actresses here that you would just that vanished within a few years. Constance Bennett, Helen Twelvetrees, Betty Compson. These are really, really good actresses at this era, and they just went away. And also from Kino Classics, the latest in the American Film Theater collection, which of course was a brainchild of Ely Landau in the late 60s, early 70s, getting a lot of great stage plays and starring them up and putting them out as movies. This one is Edward Albee's A Delicate Balance, directed by the great British director Tony Richardson, and with a phenomenal cast. Paul Scofield and Katharine Hepburn. Doesn't get any better than that. This is a great Edward Albee play. Makes for a very, very good movie. It's not too long. Some of these things were verging on 4 hours. This one's about 2.25, and has trailers for all the other available films. An interview with Edie Landau, Ely Landau's widow. Also an interview with Edward Albee himself, and an interview with cinematographer David Watkin, better known for the Best Picture winner, Chariots of Fire. Mm-hmm. And the other one here from the American Film Theater collection, maybe one of the most interesting ones they did, is Eugene Ionesco's Rhinoceros, yes, which makes for a better movie than play, to be honest. Yeah. And mainly because it has the cast from The Producers, Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder. And it's a great reteaming. It's perfect.
It's absurdist, but
it's so absurdist. It's just
absurdism works better when it's done by funny people.
It does, and it's just so much fun. Directed by Tom O'Horgan, with whom I'm not familiar, but boy, what a fun movie this is. It's really one of the few American film theater standouts that sort of transcends the original stage material.
Interesting. Yeah. I have Boogie Boy from 1998 from the MVD Rewind collection. Boogie Boy, I remember this movie. I did the junket for this movie. It was even a B movie at the time, but yet you could still sort of get a release out of these movies back in the day. Mark Dacascos, before he was really doing the karate thing, so ridiculously young in this movie. Plays a guy, gets out of prison, wants to go straight until his cellmate gets out and comes to visit him, wants him to help him set up a drug deal. So, fairly ordinary in that context. This is why I love this movie. Dig the cast of this movie. Young Emily Lloyd, opposite Mark Dacascos in this movie. A ridiculously young Michael Pena is in this movie. Tracy Lords, once I guess she was an 80s or 70s porn star. I can't even remember. But she was a porn star. And actually made that little transition from porn into legitimate acting work for 10, 15, 20
She was in one of the Blade movies.
She was in one of the Blade movies. She was on a couple of television series. Tracy Lords in this movie.
I saw her on the sidewalk once in Hollywood.
I just run into her all the time, but I lived in North Hollywood.
Wearing clothes that left less to the imagination than if she were wearing nothing.
That's funny. Because I lived in North Hollywood, in the Valley. Porn making capital of the universe for a while there, in the early 90s, middle 90s, whatever it was. So I ran into these people all the time. Leanna Quigley, the Scream Queen, is in this movie. A young John Hawkes is in this movie.
Crazy, right?
And Joan Jett is in this movie, man. It really, really strikes me as interesting, this stuff. So this is the special collector's edition on Blu-ray and DVD. A whole lot of fun, packed full of all kinds of neat special features. Including the director's commentary. So check that out, Boogie Boy. It was a fun movie, as I recall. When a Stranger Calls Back, which is interesting because there's a movie called When a Stranger Calls. It came out in 2006, but this is When a Stranger Calls Back from 1993.
Right.
So it's the thing. They're both more or less about the same thing, though. This one, young woman's babysitting a couple of kids. Guy comes, knocks on the door. Can you call AAA for me? What's neat about this movie is you can't do any of that stuff anymore. This guy's scam to get into that house to call AAA. You can't do that anymore because everybody has cell phones now.
Yep.
Nevertheless, this guy is going to. He probably shouldn't have done that. Carol Kane in the lead. Charles Durning in the movie. Haven't seen Charles in a long time. Lots of special features on this 2K scan of original elements, including interviews with the director Fred Walton and actors Carol Kane and Jill Schoen, who I just loved. I love finding these rare gems of the sort of beginning of these actors' careers. It's just kind of neat to take a look and see what they were doing 25 and 30 years ago.
Yeah, so Veronica Guerin. Those who don't know the story of Veronica Guerin was a crime reporter in Ireland, and she... Let's not give anything away. Very famous crime reporter who wound up becoming embroiled in some of the stuff that she was investigating.
Yeah, wrote a series of reports.
Right.
Highly esteemed.
Very critical. Yeah. And ran afoul of the criminal underworld. And at one point, brushed up against the very same figure that is depicted in John Boorman's The General.
Mm-hmm.
Portrayed by Brendan Gleeson in that. And this is a Joel Schumacher movie called Veronica Guerin. It's on Blu-ray, starring
Kate Blanchett
as Veronica Guerin.
Yeah,
and it's fine. It's good. It's decent. It's got Karen Hines and Brenda Fricker. A lot of really good supporting cast here. Directed by Joel Schumacher. Again, it's like our Joel Schumacher day. But here's the thing. I don't think this is the best movie about this story.
Yeah.
The best movie about this story is one that was made several years earlier in 2000 by director John McKenzie, starring Joan Allen.
Oh, yes.
It's called When the Sky Falls. And they don't call her Veronica Guerin in the movie. She plays a character named Sinead Hamilton. And, Patrick Bergin is in this as well. And it doesn't have the budget that Veronica Guerin has. McKenzie is not the flashy director that Joel Schumacher is. Yeah. But it's a better movie overall. It kind of captures the essence of the story and what happens much better. So that being said, Veronica Guerin on Blu-ray, Kate Blanchett, I love her to death, but I prefer the Joan Allen, John McKenzie movie.
It would be an interesting thing to sit down, watch them, in a double feature and see how you feel about that. Audio commentary here with director Joel Schumacher. Audio commentary with the writers Carol Doyle and Mary Agnes Donahue. This is all happened in the 90s, I believe. In Ireland, it just doesn't seem to have been any period where there wasn't some reason for somebody to get assassinated someplace in Ireland. It's always just been the thing.
So before John Williams wrote the music for Jaws, John Williams did the music for Earthquake, which kind of got him ready. Earthquake was kind of like the last gasp of Mark Robson, the great director of many, many big films in the 60s. This is 1974, and it's one of those big all-star disaster movies that you were getting at that time, Towering Inferno and
those Irwin
Allen stuff. Yeah, and Earthquake tried to sort of one-up them all by... It had some great special effects, by the way. I mean, really, really good special effects. But it tried to one-up them all by having Sensurround, which was a fancy way of saying the projectionist in the booth is going to turn up the bass in the theater. And that was it. Yeah. That was your Sensurround.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was more to it. But anyway, a huge, huge cast here. Charlton Heston and Ava Gardner. And then rounding it out with Richard Roundtree and Genevieve Bujold and Lauren Green and George Kennedy. And my goodness, even Marjo Gortner stopped preaching long enough to show up in this movie. And it just got ridiculous at a certain point. Victoria Principal's even in this crazy thing, and it's co-written by Mario Puzo. Why? Because they just made the second Godfather movie, and he could do no wrong. It's a crazy movie. I don't think it really holds up, but what I really enjoy about it is that if you're familiar with, if you've seen Battlestar Galactica 1980, the show that that was the sequel to Battlestar Galactica with Dr. Z, where there is a sequence in there where they imagine, where they represent what would happen if the Cylons ever got to Earth and they would destroy things. They basically took footage, because it's Universal Film, they took footage from Earthquake of the Capitol Records building, collapsing and all that stuff, and they just superimposed footage of Cylon raiders shooting them. So now all those things are not collapsing because of an earthquake. They're collapsing because the Cylons are attacking Hollywood.
I'm sorry.
It's
That's
hilarious.
Just brilliant.
It's hilarious.
Back in the day sort of
So
film.
that's Earthquake, Collector's Edition from Shout Select on Blu-ray. Tons of extras here. Basically all new featurettes, and they're really, really fun. And this includes not only the original cut, but the longer 2-night telecast cut from NBC. Yeah.
Before we all got so damn savvy about filmmaking, and now we could all just make a movie,
right?
that little sequence worked just fine.
Yep. Absolutely true. All right. What else we got next?
Well, I got a couple here real quick. A Blu-ray collection of horror movies, 3 movies. I Know What You Did Last Summer, Vacancy, and oddly, When a Stranger Calls. A few moments ago, we talked about When a Stranger Calls Back. This is When a Stranger Calls. On this Blu-ray set, it's sort of an oddball parody of movies, but they're all pretty good. Of course, I Know What You Did Last Summer. A wonderful little movie. Oh my God, that movie's 20 years old now. I hadn't thought about that in quite some time. Vacancy, Luke Wilson, Kate Beckinsale, and Frank Whaley in that movie. It's kind of neat little movie there. And of course, Camille Bell and Brian Garrity in the original. Not the original, but the 2006 version of When a Stranger Calls. So, if you're into those little thrillers, check them all out. I Know What You Did Last Summer is rated R, as well as Vacancy. When a Stranger Calls is only PG-13, so you'll be okay there. Not much in the way of special features, but you get 3 movies, so that's not so bad.
Steve Coogan in 24-Hour Party People.
I love that movie.
Great Michael Winterbottom movie. Kind of introduced Steve Coogan to American audiences. Frankly, that was sort of, I think, his breakthrough here. This is a great movie and one of Winterbottom's best films ever, I think, probably. It's on Blu-ray from 20th Century Fox via MVD Visual, music video distributors. And also not huge by way of extras, but it does have some deleted scenes, a featurette, and a couple of featurettes, but 2 audio commentaries, one of them with Tony Wilson and the other one with Steve Coogan and producer Andrew Eaton. So it's that's nice to have out. That's been out previously. It's out again. It's worth it on Blu-ray because it's Coogan and Winterbottom. What else do you need?
Yeah, boy. Summer Stock from 1950.
The best.
Fantastic a movie. Judy Garland's last film with MGM.
Yep.
And Gene Kelly, of course. A classic film. Let's put on a show. The farmer has a farm. Farm's not doing so well. This troop comes through. You know what? We'll put on a show. Next thing you know, he's got these theatrical these theater types.
Yeah.
They're show people.
Yeah.
He's got these show people putting on a show. The thing. And again, Judy Garland in her final MGM musical. It's just a lovely, lovely movie, full of special features on this Blu-ray here, including a featurette, Summer Stock, Get Happy, a classic cartoon, audio-only bonus, outtake of the song Fall in Love, and the theatrical trailer of the movie.
There you go. All right, Tim, before we switch over to our interview, we got Soul Team 6 here, which is a collection of 6 Blaxploitation movies from the 1970s. None of which one of which I saw. None of the others I saw. So I don't know. And we both love Blaxploitation movies. So let's see how many of these you actually saw. The Black Six from 1973. Mean Joe Green.
Nope, didn't see that.
I didn't either. The Black Gestapo.
A movie that the name of which I know, but I never saw. But I've always thought that title was so funny.
Black Brigade with Billy D. Williams.
Oh, absolutely.
And Robert Hooks.
I have that movie. Richard Pryor's in that movie too. Very young Richard Pryor. I have the movie over there.
That's it. Set during World War II. Black Fist with Philip Michael Thomas and Dabney Coleman.
I've only ever seen the VHS cover. I think it's whatever, but I did not see that movie.
Okay, here's the one that I've seen: The Black Godfather from 1974. Which it's that's pretty terrific. Rod Perry and Damu King, Tony Burton was great. And then the last one is kind of a late stage one with Leon Isaac Kennedy and Jane Kennedy, Fighting Mad.
Of all the Leon and Jane films I've seen, and I saw most of them, obviously penitentiary films like that, because Leon and Jane were married. I never saw that.
Neither
film.
did I. Neither did I. It's a Vietnam story. So anyway, interesting collection of films from the Blaxploitation era. Most of them have the word black in the title, except for the last
That's
one.
how you knew they were black.
And-
Otherwise, you wouldn't know.
And actually, it really kind of obscure titles, so it's pretty cool. Pretty cool if you don't have your collection rounded out. These are titles worth throwing in.
Oh,
there.
I have to see every single one of those. They're going to have to become a part of my class. I teach a class on black exploitation. So I have to. This is going to blow all the kids away. Yes,
Great.
sir.
Absolutely
Outstanding.
All right, with that, we are now going to segue into an interview with the author of Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn in World War II, Robert Mattson. We talked about this book some weeks ago, and it's an amazing story of Audrey Hepburn's childhood during World War II. Those who don't know is that Audrey Hepburn was growing up in Belgium. Was part of the German occupation and an extraordinary life in her extended family.
If you think she was that thin, that slight, because she was anorexic, no, that had to do with starving.
Yeah,
with eating 300 calories a day for most of her youth.
Basically, between the German occupation of Belgium and the Netherlands, where she was growing up was a significant horror, and this is that story, and it was done with the participation of her son Luca Dotti, and Robert Mattson wrote a wonderful book about this, and I had a chance to talk to Robert Mattson on the phone. And here then is my conversation with Robert Mattson about his great book Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn and World War II. We are speaking with Robert Mattson, who has written one of what I think is not a biography, but one of the great kind of hole-plugging semi-biographies that we've had in a long time. There have been a lot of books written about movie stars and certainly Hollywood figures and the overlooked aspects of their lives and their careers that other biographies have missed. But I have never seen one like this, like Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn in World War II, which gives you a completely different Audrey Hepburn than the one that publicity in Hollywood sort of led us to know. This is such an exciting story. I'm just so enthralled by it. Could you just talk for a moment, how did you even get started on this journey? There's so much research that went into this and everything that constituted her life during World War II.
Well, first of all, thank you for all the nice things. I was in the Netherlands researching my book on Jimmy Stewart's combat career that was called Mission. And I was based in Arnhem at that time and learned that Audrey had spent the war there. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I wanted to find more out about that. And so I tried to poke around and do some online research, and that was kind of futile. And then I looked at her biographies and was shocked to find how little coverage there was of those years, of the war years in Arnhem. And I thought, if ever there is a subject for a book, how could it not be this?
Indeed. I mean, it's such a subject for a book. What did your research constitute? What, at that point, where did you go? How did you even know where to go?
I was very fortunate at the outset that in Arnhem, in Oosterbeek, which is next door to Arnhem, where the Battle of Arnhem ended up, it kind of migrated over to Oosterbeek, and that's where British Airborne was holed up with SS Panzer Division around it. That's the Battle of Arnhem, the bridge too far battle.
Sure.
There's a museum there called it's the Airborne Museum in Oosterbeek. And they had an exhibit called Ella and Audrey in 2016 into 2017. And it was just this little room that had some mementos from them, and it had some of her Audrey's dance programs, and a wall of photos. And I was fortunate enough to be put in touch with the researcher who had put all that together, and she had already done this tremendous amount of research on the von Heemster family. And I hired her to be my boots on the ground in the Netherlands. I was over there and did a sort of established myself in what I was trying to do with the people in the Arnhem area and Velp, where Audrey spent most of the war. And so I met a lot of people, and I interviewed them, and Mati, who was my researcher, Monty von Lander. She was on the ground in The Hague at the National Archives, and she went to the Gelders Archive, took me to both places. We looked at all these documents. Primarily, the first big thing was to look through Ella von Heemstra's secret police file. She was Audrey's mother and had been pro-Nazi, and so they did an investigation of her after the war. And just going through all these secret documents that were not public, do not quote them, you must not photograph them, but you can use them as background. And that's really where it all started.
Now, you've done this before, we should point out. You have 2 other books that you had written about the dynamic part of 2 celebrities, Carole Lombard and Jimmy Stewart. The Jimmy Stewart book is terrific, by the way, as well. Where you're plugging holes for us. Jimmy Stewart and the Fight for Europe was the book that you did a few years ago. You crank these things out shockingly quickly, I have to say. I'm sort of amazed that you're able to find information, assemble information, and then put it into the form of a book as quickly as you do. I'm not even going to ask how you do that, because as a writer, I know that's that's about having an organized mind more than anything else. But what was it? What is it that you think sets Audrey Hepburn's World War II experience apart, other than the fact that she was there in Europe, that she was on the ground, that she wasn't like Jimmy Stewart serving in the armed forces, but certainly a lot of other European stars had World War II experiences, lived under occupation. But Audrey Hepburn's entire experience is completely different, and it's apart, and it's what makes this such an exciting book to read, almost more of a thriller than a biography. Talk a little bit about what sets that apart.
Wade, you just gave me chills, because I set out to write a thriller because she lived a thriller in the war. Her resistance activity set her apart. And the fact that she was under fire like she was for the last basically 9 months of the war, that sets her apart. The fact that she survived the hunger winter that killed 20,000 Dutch people in between 1944 and 45, just in like a 3-month period, from famine when the Germans cut off the food supply to the Netherlands. Those 3 things alone, the parallel to Anne Frank, who lived 60 miles from Audrey in Amsterdam, went through her experience, The Diary of a Young Girl, was 1 month, she was 1 month older than Audrey. Audrey was born in May of 29. Anne Frank was born in June of 29. The fact that they both dodged the Green Police, the SS Dutch police for years, they both were caught by the Green Police. And of course, Anne Frank and her family died. Audrey escaped.
Right.
There are so many elements to this thing that set her experience apart from like Marlene Dietrich, who went on tour and did wonderful things in support of U.S. troops and the Allied enterprise, but she didn't go through what Audrey Hepburn went through.
Well, it's and I've been looking here trying to find one of my favorite quotes in the book, which I should have done before I reached out to you, and I can't necessarily find it here. And how do you pronounce the name Meisje? The Frisian woman. Meja. Could you talk about her for just a second? Such a really fascinating figure.
Yeah, this was Ella. This is Audrey's mother's sister, so Audrey's aunt, and she's Wilhelmina, but her nickname was Meja, which is the Dutch word for girl. And she was married to a really cool guy. A very cool guy, Otto Ernst Gelder, Count von Limburg-Stirum, who was an aristocrat. These people were all aristocrats, very, very classy people. And he was like a district attorney in Arnhem who was arrested by let's just say taken hostage by the Nazis, along with 1,000 other people. The leading citizens of the Netherlands were all held hostage in case there was an act of sabotage by the Dutch resistance, which inevitably there was. And Uncle Otto was among the first 5 to be executed, leaving Meja a widow. And at that point, Ella and Audrey moved in with Meja and their grandfather, Baron von Heemstra, in Velp. And Meja was Audrey's mother figure. Ella was a stage mother kind of a woman and really wore the pants in the family. Audrey turned to Measure when she needed affection, when she needed a hug, when she needed a boost. Measure was always there, and Measure was there through Audrey's life. And Audrey in the 1980s was there for Measure, and Measure died, in Audrey's arms. It's a beautiful story. It's part of what made Audrey was Aunt Measure.
And see, that's what I got from the book. I got the distinct impression, and you make the case very, very well without sort of spoon feeding it and argue. You let the reader sort of make the case to themselves, I would say, that Measure basically, more than any other figure in Audrey's life, forged the woman that we fell in love with in the movies.
Yeah, nurtured Audrey's soft side. She wasn't going to get that from Ella, her mother. And a lot of this kind of detail came from Audrey's son, Luca Dotti, who became my collaborator and just friend on this enterprise in the latter stages. And the detail that he added, he grew up with Ella. Ella was his babysitter and, cool grandmother when Luca was a kid. And so he gave me that aspect of Ella. He gave me Ella because she was a mysterious person to me, and I didn't trust her until Lucas set me straight on Ella. And he also gave me this wonderful detail on Measure and that relationship as well.
Talk just a bit about the post-war stuff as well, which was also not easy. Again, before we started this, I mentioned that my mother was German. My mother was a refugee from Pomerania, and the Eastern Front collapsed, and she and my grandfather and my aunt fled while my teenage uncles had been drafted into the German army. So a lot of what I'm reading here sort of connected me to stories that I heard from them as well. And the one thing I remember from my mother most was when the war was over, the war wasn't over. It was a new war. And talk a little bit about that aspect in Audrey's life.
Well, you're absolutely right. When the war was over in the Netherlands, the war began in the Netherlands. And that was, if you were a collaborator, a sympathizer, if you weren't anti-Nazi, you could be seen as pro-Nazi. And so there were investigations across the Netherlands. Everyone was suspect. And Ella had a lot to hide, and Ella covered her tracks as well as she could. She had been pro-Nazi. She had a Nazi boyfriend into 1941. She put together these Nazi evenings, for society. And so after the war, she had to pay the piper, and that's what that 1948 investigation was all about. The day of liberation, Velp Liberation Day, was April 16, 1945. Ella was taken away, much to Audrey's horror, by the Canadian police. The military police came in and took her away for questioning, because that was the day all of the Nazi sympathizer women had their heads shaved.
Oh, wow.
Because and were paraded through the center of Velp. And Audrey feared that was going to happen to Ella, and it didn't, only because Ella was vouched for by the resistance leader in Velp, who was also Audrey's sort of handler in the resistance, Dr. Wizard Hooft.
And Ella had to testify at a certain point and make certain confessions too.
Yeah, and make certain lies to protect herself. But she still was okay, But she did. She lied to protect herself, and things were so murky after the war that she actually got away with it. Except she was labeled as unreliable by the Dutch police for her lifetime, which had ramifications when she came to the United States. It was hard for her to get out of the Netherlands and go to England. Then it was hard to go from England to the United States. And there is a missing FBI file that has driven my DC researcher crazy, because it's not there, and it should be, on Ella von Heemstra, because she had this attribution on her record, as unreliable and as a Nazi sympathizer. The file is missing from the archives in D.C., and I suspect I know what happened to it, but it's gone.
Wow. Are you able to say what you think happened to it?
I think Paramount had it removed when she when Audrey became a Hollywood star, it was too dangerous to have that file out there. And J. Edgar Hoover had connections to the Paramount Studios in particular, and Paramount could easily have made a call, and J. Edgar Hoover could have, expunged that file.
Wow, that's fascinating. That is, the intrigue continues well into her career in Hollywood. It followed her here. That's just extraordinary.
Yeah, in the back of the book, there are my chapter notes, and my chapter notes is really the backstory of researching this thing, which I think is as much fun as reading about Audrey's life, is reading the historiography you go through to put it all back together again, and some of that's covered in the back there.
It's just absolutely superb. You did such a wonderful, wonderful job. I tip my hat to you. Robert Mattson, you are, I hope there are more books like this. And this is sort of the notes in the book indicate that this has been a trilogy for you. Is there a chance that there will be more like this?
Wade, that's a great question, but the story has to be there. If I can find another story like that, oh, heck, Audrey has spoiled me terribly. How do you find another story like this? Yeah. But if there's something out there, I'd love to start down the research trail again, but we'll have to wait and see.
All right. Well, Robert Mattson, thank you so much for speaking to us. The book is Dutch Girl, Audrey Hepburn and World War II by Robert Mattson. Forward by Luca Dotti. And it is a superb book. I recommend that everybody go out and get it. It deserves a place on the shelf of everyone who loves books about celebrities and World War II and where those things coincide. Well done. Thank you for speaking with us.
Thank you, Wade. I appreciate it.